ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Power Vacuum. I'm your host Belmont, and I'm here to talk about Dragon Age the VEILGUARD today. So Dragon Age the VEILGUARD released last week, and it's been hit with some pretty mixed reviews. Seems the people over on Steam are giving it good reviews, while everyone everywhere else seems to not be liking it. The critics have a lot of praise to say about it, while the fans don't. And Dragon Age the VEILGUARD will be marking the first Bioware game that I intentionally haven't played. I say intentionally because I don't know what happened with Anthem. I don't know what their marketing was. That game just flew so far under my radar. I didn't even know, one, that it was a Bioware game or that it had even come out until like a week after it had come out. And I was like, what is this game? Oh, this is Bioware? Why haven't I heard of this? I don't know if it was just me not having my finger on the pulse, them not marketing it properly, which I don't feel that they did, or just, a combination of the two. Or possibly I was just embroiled in something else. I think when Anthem came out, I was hardcore playing either Diablo 4 or Diablo 2 Resurrected. So, when you're playing Diablo, other games just don't seem to exist. I don't know what Blizzard has done. It's like they put like some sort of psionic wave length in the game, so when you're playing them, it just erases all other games from your memory temporarily. But I'm choosing not to play Dragon Age. It's for a number of reasons. It makes me a little bit sad because I have played, as I said, this is the first game I've intentionally not played. I've played every other Bioware game, and I mean every other Bioware game, even Mass Effect Andromeda, which I will stand by my original statement, which I don't even think you can find online anymore because I think my original Reddit account got nuked. But Mass Effect Andromeda for me was one of the funnest, worst games I've ever played. Like, mechanically, it wasn't great. Graphically, it wasn't great. Voice acting wise, it wasn't great. The story wasn't that great. But I don't know, I played the hell out of it. I think it's because I was in a huge Mass Effect kick. I had just beaten the Legendary Edition, and I was like, screw it, I'm going to check out Andromeda. And I was like in that mode, but I'm here to talk about Dragon Age. I could talk about Mass Effect for fucking hours, which is why this is the first article we're going to look at. I've got several things to show you about Dragon Age here. But Dragon Age the VEILGUARD won't have DLC. Team is focused on Mass Effect 5. For the first time, it's a Dragon Age with no DLC. Now, I think they did not announce DLC for Dragon Age 2 ahead of time, and it was kind of like a surprise, hey, DLC kind of thing. They introduced like a whole new character with that, and I don't think it was originally planned. I'd have to go back and dig through articles, but they don't plan DLC sometimes, and then they just spring them on you as like a, ooh, surprise. But this does not bode well for Mass Effect 5, in my view. One, if it's the same team that made this game, Mass Effect 5 is probably going to have the same issue that this game had, and that's going to be riddled with current day politics, which is completely immersion shattering and ruins video games, because games need to be timeless. They don't need to have current day political ideology. They don't need to have topical issues unless they're done in like a comical sort of way, which this is not. This game is very straight-laced with what it's trying to do. And let's just dive into this article a little bit from Polygon. After what appears to have been quite successful launch for Dragon Age the VEILGUARD, which broke player count records for Bioware and EA games on Steam during its launch day, fans could have reasonably expected to see more from the game's colorful cast of characters. Alright, I gotta stop right there. Hasn't EA been releasing games on its own thing? How many games from EA have launched on, well, let's find out. How many EA games have launched on Steam for release day? Isn't much. I mean, there should be Dude, I hate AI overview. Yeah, so EA just recently, like, was 8 months ago, started releasing its games on there. You used to have to get them directly from EA, or, they relied on console sales. They haven't really been branching into the PC market until more recently. So, yeah, I think every EA game that comes out henceforth is probably going to break records or break the previous one. But that just seems like a weird... They always try to find these little victories, and when you start reading things about little victories, that's a bad sign that things aren't going the way they want them to. Every other Dragon Age has had post-launch DLC content, we know that. Often big story implications, such as Dragon Age Inquisition's Trespasser, featuring the heel turn from companion character Solus that set him up to be the antagonist at the outset of Veilguard. What do you mean? One, the heel turn happened at the end of the regular game. This wasn't like part of the DLC, so I don't even know what they're talking about. I played the hell out of Inquisition. I'm one of the only people in my circle that played Inquisition because I knew too many people that didn't like it because it didn't have conventional healing methods. They were like, why is there no magical healing in the world of magic? And I was like, I don't know, man. Evil guy says no magical healing. Get over it. Drink your potions. Instead, the report reads the developers' full attention is now shifted entirely to the next Mass Effect as their current project. Polygon has a recent chat with Epler, as well as game director Corin Bush, in which Bush emphasized the team's goals with regard to this point. The main thing for us is very important that this game felt like the most complete story that we're trying to tell. Oh, is it? Yeah, because it's real bad. Like, the dialogue that I've seen is bad. The animations are kind of eh. It really feels like... See, I didn't look it up, but it felt like the people who made Mass Effect Andromeda made this game, and they polished their skills up at about 30%. They were at like 15% when they made Mass Effect. They're twice as good as they were, but they're still 70% away from being, top notch. And yeah, I just wanted to point that out. There's no DLC, and they're focusing on Mass Effect 5 with the same team. Who knows what the future holds? That team could change dramatically in the next few years, but if it continues upon this way, it's not looking good for Mass Effect 5. And then I had this other one, and this is why I think things don't look as good. The Dragon Age Trilogy remaster wouldn't be easy because hardly anyone at Bioware knows how its old engine works. And this is why they're switching to Unreal. Like, I saw a report that all these companies are switching to Unreal, and they claim that they're doing this because it's, universal system. It's easier to use. They want to be able to have anybody that works on their team use it. And I think the real reason is these proprietary engines, which function better sometimes for what you're trying to do, went by with the people who created them, and they don't know how to work with them. They don't know how to troubleshoot them. And it just goes to show that there's an entire group of developers out there that don't know shit about game developing. They only know YouTube tutorials. They haven't learned anything. They haven't tested themselves. They haven't experimented. They just know what they can watch a YouTube video about. And if that's the case, you don't need to go to school for game development. Anyone can be a game developer. You can go watch YouTube videos about every fucking thing and be mediocre at it. So this is why games have turned into this mediocre field thing. It used to be, to get onto a development team, you had to be good. You had to have a track record of being good. You had to have your own side projects. You had to submit a digital portfolio basically of things you've done. And now it seems oh, hey, Tom knows this guy and or gal and or they, them, whatever, knows someone who wants to make games, and they check a bunch of boxes, so go ahead and hire them and show them the YouTube tutorial video of the software we're using. It's ridiculous. Let's get into this article here. Following a seemingly solid launch for Dragon Age the Veilguard. Hold on a second. What was the wording on this? Appears to have quite a successful launch. It seems like the mainstream media talking points have gone out. Say these specific phrases. Um, get back into it. There's probably a fair few series newcomers considering delving into the original trilogy, but anyone hoping for a Mass Effect Legendary Edition style remaster shouldn't hold their breath. Dragon Age the Veilguard creative director John Epler says the project wouldn't be easy because hardly anyone left at Bioware knows how the studio's old engine works. Mass Effect Legendary Edition was well received when it launched back in 2021, introducing the likes of improved performance and visuals, enhanced models, new lighting, gameplay tweaks, and more. It was a welcome finessing of classic trilogy and the kind of treatment most would probably agree BioWare's other beloved series deserves. No, I don't agree with that. Mass Effect 1 needed a remake. Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, not so much. Mass Effect 1 had this issue where it was BioWare was still like riding off of the coder thing that they, because they made the first coder game, and they were still using what was effectively a D20 system for Mass Effect 1. So you would be shooting a gun, all your bullets would land into the thing, but only some of them would be hits because every bullet had a D20 basically attributed to it, and it rolled that die whether or not it would hit or miss. So this effectively made machine guns the best guns in the game, just because you dump a bunch of bullets into something, higher chances of hitting and doing more damage. It also made shotguns really good because I believe, now I could be way wrong about this, but I believe the shotgun wasn't per bullet, but it was per fire. So when you hit, all the pellets would hit and do massive damage, and when you missed, you missed. But they fixed it in 2 and 3, and then they went back with the Legendary Edition and made 1 to where, you hit what you're aiming at. If you load bullets into something, it takes the bullets. It makes the game much more enjoyable. It makes it a less immersion breaking because, you're pumping rounds into something, you're seeing the animations for bullets hitting, and no damage is happening. You're like, what the hell's going on? It was a problem that Mass Effect 1 suffered. They didn't even fix the real problem of Mass Effect 1 being that you just rub Omni-Gel on anything and it opens up. It's like, what kind of world, what kind of security is this? It's like, oh, we've got this most sophisticated lock, except this guy put some goo on it and it just popped open. Also, quick time events to open locks, and there's only 4 buttons. It was weird. It's an old game when you go back and look at it. It's so old that on top of the game, it if you have an original copy, it says on Xbox only, which it's not now. It's on everything. However, in a recent interview with Rolling Stone, thanks PC Gamer. What the fuck does that mean? Okay, whatever. Dragon Age the Veilguard creative director John Epler, who's been with BioWare since the original Dragon Age's release back in 2009, noted that while he'd love to see the original trilogy get remastered treatment, it would be a challenge due to the game's proprietary engine. Unlike the Mass Effect trilogy, which was developed in the Unreal Engine 3, Dragon Age Inquisition was created using EA's Frostbite engine, while Dragon Age 1 and 2 more problematically were built using BioWare's own Eclipse engine. I think I'm one of maybe about 20 people left at BioWare who's actually used Eclipse, Epler said. Remastering Dragon Age is something that's not going to be as easy as Mass Effect, but we do love the original games. But there's perhaps some small hope for Dragon Age fans, given Epler didn't entirely shut down the idea. Never say never, he added. I guess that's what it comes down to. Of course, EA's interest in giving Dragon Age the Legendary Edition treatment, and indeed its continuing interest in the series as a whole, will likely hinge on the success of Dragon Age the Veilguard, which has appeared to get off to a solid start when it launched last week. The publisher hasn't yet trumpeted any official figures, but the Veilguard did manage at an all-time peak of 89,418 concurrent players on Steam, setting a new record for a single-player EA game. What that means for the Veilguard's future is unclear, but speaking ahead of launch, Epler said BioWare's full attention has shifted entirely to the next Mass Effect, meaning that it had no DLC plans beyond Yeah, so the fact that they're not putting out numbers this far, what are we, 5 days post-release, 7 days post early access, and there's no numbers, is not a good sign. Like, think about Red Dead Redemption 2, which launched on console only, right? It was on current PlayStation and Xbox consoles only. And on day 3, they were like, yo, this game's made $745 million in 3 days. Like, they had the number. They proudly showed it. They were like, yeah, we've sold this many units. We've made this much money. We now have secured the largest media release weekend in all history. In all media. Like, boom. Fuck you, Star Wars. Get this shit out. You done Lord of the Rings. Every fucking other major media franchise paled in comparison to Red Dead Redemption 2's release. It was bonkers. And, you know, here we go. They're not telling us the numbers, which tells me it's not that great. And I understand why, because some of the videos coming out are atrocious. Like, I'm going to show you a couple of clips. This is one of the video clips that bothered the hell out of me. And it was, I guess, you've begun a romance with Harding, which I think it's funny that they named the short little character Harding, considering that, was it the Hardfoots from Rings of Power? Short little girls? I don't know. It's just funny. I know this character was probably written like 8 years ago, but right after you romance her, by the way.
I could kiss you right now. I'm going to kiss you right now.
At least there's something we might need to.
Oh, it's just one of those things, like, show don't tell. And that's how I know that these writers aren't seasoned writers, or they're not seasoned fans of reading. They haven't read a lot. They don't know a lot about story structure. You don't need your characters to say what they're doing. Just have them do it. It's a visual media. Like, you don't need to tell me that this character is going to kiss this character. When the music got all dramatic and she started moving in and kissed the character, I'd be like, oh, okay, we're kissing now. I didn't need that narrated by the person doing it. Like, I don't know where this trend of self-narration in video games came from, why characters need to do it. They do it in TV shows now too. Like, they don't show you things anymore. They tell you. And I guess it's just bad writing. It's what it is. It boils down to bad writing. You don't need your characters to explain what's going on. Your audience should be able to figure it out. Trust your audience. You know, your average audience is pretty smart when it comes to figuring things out. I mean, look at lore hunters. Look at code breakers. Look at what, like, you know, Reddit and comment sections, X, 4chan, all these places have people that figure things out so quickly that having to have characters tell what they're doing is just nuts and insulting to the intelligence of the viewer or the player or the, you know, whatever's going on. And it's just like, it's just one of many symptoms. One, also, like, the animations, when you look at them, like, the characters look a little cartoony. I don't know if that's an aesthetic choice. Like, I get why this guy's supposed to look kind of cartoony. This is the main character, so, like, rendering the main character in cutscenes is a lot harder when they're not a fixed character. Which is why, if I'm playing, like, a serious game, I usually play, is she a hobbit or a dwarf? I think she is a dwarf. A female dwarf named Harding, because she's hardy. Oh, okay. Alright. But, yeah, she's a dwarf. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't look as polished as I would expect a game in 2024 to look. And, you know, maybe Baldur's Gate ruined me. Maybe Resident Evil 2 Remake ruined me. Because Resident Evil 2 Remake looks so good in, like, every way. But, like, look how good, like, they're very, like, Pixar-ish. And, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like they spent 8 years making this game. And, it's just lazy writing, lazy animation. Like, and this one's a good example of the lazy writing, lazy animation, and the modern day politics that don't belong in video games, especially ones set in like fantastical worlds. Fantasy is supposed to be fantasy. It's not supposed to be reality. It shouldn't have modern belief structures in it because it's fantasy. I don't know how many times I'm going to say this, probably 1,000 more times before the point gets across, but this is a scene where I guess this is the character Tosh, who's formerly female and now identifies as a they them, and this
best part is, while Tosh is pounding that snake's nose, she's still holding the ruby in her other hand. Maker's
she and then this person's like, you misgendered them. Ah, shit. Hold it. And then they say sorry, but they don't say sorry. And look at this animation. Like, bro, one, this pose, ass up in the air, chest down. So this is a great pose if you're trying to build pectoral muscles. Like, some people say, oh no, that's not how you do push-ups. Well, it is how you do push-ups. In fact, you would want your butt even higher, because when you angle yourself downwards, when you do the push-up, it really works the chest muscles to do this angle. But you could tell by the way this person was earlier that she didn't have like huge built-up pectoral muscles. So it's one of those things that, if she clearly doesn't do these push-ups a lot, but she's doing them like slow down, good eccentric control, but the animation's just kind of like choppy in some parts. That jump up was very choppy, like, but they go into this whole spiel about, like, I don't know, they need better in-betweeners, I guess. It's called like doing a whatever. Do they say, here we go, why not just apologize? Yeah, the character asks, why don't you just apologize? And she said sorry, but it was like, oh, sorry, and not looking like the character, oh, I apologize for that. Doing a barv, that's what it is. One, like, if somebody offended me, if you found some way to offend me, and then you hit the ground and started doing push-ups, I would probably just look at you like you were fucking crazy. And then when you got done, I'd be like, okay, are you going to apologize for that? And they were like, oh no, I just did a barv, it made me sweat a little. And it's like, first and foremost, I don't care. I want an apology. I don't want you to sweat. Secondly, if doing 4 fucking push-ups makes you sweat, then I suggest you do 4 push-ups 15 different times a day until they don't make you sweat. Because that's not like, I don't know. It's one of these things that it's this false idea of masculinity. It's what people who don't understand what masculinity means or what it is think it is. And it's just this another trope of, how do we write a strong woman character in a video game or a movie or a story? Okay, what you do is you write a man and then just change it to a woman. And it's a really bad trend. It's a really bad thing that's been happening. I despise it. I don't understand it. Men and women think differently. Men and women behave differently. We react differently. We have different bone structures. We have different muscular structures. We have different, we have different fucking skin. When you analyze the skin, like, men have more collagen in their skin, which means their skin has more strength. And they say elasticity, but I feel like more collagen gives it more flexibility, less elasticity. Because it seems like women's skin stretches better, but that's, I guess, it's more of a hydration thing than anything. But women do retain more water, which means their skin would be more elastic, but less strong. More prone to tearing and ripping than a man's. But they don't think that way. They just think, oh, well, a woman can do anything a man can do, and a man can do anything a woman can do. And it's not really true. It's really not. A woman can't get kicked in the balls. That just can't happen. You know, most women haven't had that experience. We have different lived experiences too, right? So I'm not going to get into that. Get away from that. Get away. But my point is, this whole scene, they're just indicative of bad writing. They're indicative of, they show the character design. Like I said, they're a little more Pixar-ish. Like, this guy looks pretty good. I guess this is the main character, maybe. If we back it up, you look at him. If this is the beard option, oh, see, no. Once he's like zoomed out, it's pretty bad looking again. And look at this background texture. Look at this, like this is almost like the end of Xbox 360 era, like background texturing. There's just, I don't know. This game seems unfinished, or not unfinished. It's a finished game. It seems unrefined and unpolished. It's like they were like, all right, time to do the finishing touches. And they were like, no, you spent 8 or 10 years making this game. Fuck the finishing touches. Just put it out. Shove it out there. And I feel like that's what happened. And I fear that that's what's going to be happening to the next Mass Effect. And I feel like I could probably talk about this for another hour, but I'm not going to, because I feel like I've run on long enough as it is. So Belmont out.